Nasya Yananjala Shalakaya Swayam Upakaramayam Danati Swavanantikam Namam Vishnubhadaya Kashabasa Vittali Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayane Nivashisha Shunivari Pasatari Shatarine Vanchakapa Tuvasha Kripasinivevata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to day number 3 of our seminar on children. Just one quick little additional comment which came to my mind. Often it's like that. I reflect afterwards in the evenings and then I think, oh God, I should have mentioned that also. So just one little additional comment to the topic of Garbhadan Samskara and preparing to receive a special soul in one's family. So of course, ideally, this should be done together, husband and wife, ideally. But sometimes one person is more enthusiastic about it than the other person. And especially when the wife is more enthusiastic, she has to be very careful not to try and push the husband, because as we know, or maybe don't know, but we discussed this more in details in the book Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. A husband cannot follow in the footsteps of the wife. The wife cannot instruct him. Then she will achieve the opposite. So the more the wife pushes, oh, come on, let's do that, and we have to do like this, like that, he's not gonna be eager to follow. It's the wrong rasa, So in such a situation, one has to be very careful, and the wife can just quietly do things herself, Even if the husband doesn't want to chant 50 rounds, all right, then the wife can do it. She doesn't have to nag him and push him and all this, because that will create a, very tense atmosphere and negativity in the relationship and so on, So then in such a case, the wife can just quietly do whatever she likes to do and not make a big show, or look at me, I'm doing, and what about you, you're not doing. So this is the wrong mood. And of course, if the husband is more enthusiastic than the wife, so the wife should actually follow in the footsteps of the husband. That's the whole relationship. So then he can, of course, try and inspire her to also, accept some of the aspects of really preparing and having a prayerful mood and. So we have to be careful, especially if the wife is more enthusiastic. As we always say, the husband has to be the hero for the wife. So if the wife, even if she thinks, even if she doesn't say anything, but even if she hopes, when will he finally get fired up and also do something? Husband can feel it, and he will not be happy about it, because that means, if the wife feels like that, it means he is not her hero. If he is really her hero, then she will look up to him, she will accept him as he is. But if she always feels, he's not doing, and when will the day come, and so on, the husband can feel it. That's the power of consciousness. And then he will not be encouraged at all to, also make some steps towards the whole idea. Yeah, so just as a little additional comment to yesterday's discussion. So last night we were already looking at the different phases of the child, you know, the 0 to 5, Komara, Poganda, 6 to 10, Kaishora, 11 to 15, and Yovana, 16 and above. So we were briefly looking at this chart here and so on, what the psychology of the child is, and then in very short terms what the child's needs are. So now in this morning session we want to look a little more into the different phases. And once again, at this point we will still keep it a little brief, because then in the afternoon we will discuss the role of father, role of mother, and then in the tomorrow's session we will, you know, pick out in more detail certain important principles, and then with quite a few guidelines and recommendations and so on, you know. So that is basically what is ahead of us. So now, Komara, age of 0 to 5. They're called the formative years. And out of these 5 years, it is said that especially the first 3 years are really important. They're really a very critical time in the development of a child's personality. Very, very important. And especially the mother. We will discuss this afternoon. This is where the mother's role comes in such an important way. Important way. I mean, yesterday, in the end, the question came up from Govindadev Prabhu that, yes, we can just have that, you know, if we had bad experiences, we can take that as an inspiration to make it better. Yes, in many ways we can, but if a person experiences very bad impressions in these first 3 years, mainly through neglect of the mother, if the mother is abusive, you know, physically beats the child, screams, constantly chastises, or she is on drugs or something, this leaves such bad impressions. It creates such negative luggage for a child or personality. And this can be really damaging for the rest of their life, you know? Yes. That all kinds of complexes, insecurities, and whatnot, you know, come about. It's a really important phase, you know. Yes. So we will also come to this again when we talk in the afternoon about the mother, you know. But just to hint at it already, yeah. So whatever impressions are printed on the child's mind in these first 3 years, they are carried through the rest of his life. Yeah, let's be very clear in this, very clear. And this makes it even more clear how bad it is for a child if in this age already, you know, the child is simply dropped off at the Kita, at the Kindertagesstätte, at the childcare center, early morning till evening. This is really, you know, the child feels neglected, not wanted, has constant fear of being abandoned. I mean, this is so traumatic, you know, but this understanding is not there today in the general society, and sometimes even not amongst devotees also, you know. So this has to be very clearly understood, you know. So the emotional frame of mind of the mother greatly influences the personality of the child, you know, especially in these first 3 years out of the 5. So, big topic, you know. Yeah, that's why, you know, we women play such an important role, and that's why we also need training, you know, in spiritual practice. We will discover this more in the afternoon when we talk more about the role of the mother, you know. as we mentioned already yesterday, very briefly, when I was telling the story with a kitten and this little child, where the child was just grabbing the kitten and hitting it on some stones there and so on. So in this age, the child cannot discriminate what is good and what is bad for him, especially in these first 3 years. So then gradually, when the child gets 4 or 5, then some little more intelligence develops. But in these first years, child cannot discriminate. So that's why the parents have to really give mental, physical, and spiritual protection. And the idea is, that the parents, and mainly the mother, she's more around in that young age, that the mother, rather than trying to instruct or chastise or something, because as we say, the child doesn't have the intelligence to understand. So she more has to distract the child, from some negative behavior, negative engagement, simply distracting and attracting in a different direction. So in that way, the mother has to constantly guard and protect the child, and not trying to reason and explain or instruct or chastise. No, simply through distracting into the right direction, she can protect the child, So, and definitely, especially in these first 5 years, the learning happens through imitation. Completely. So the parents model the right behavior through their own example. So through the parents' behavior, the child learns what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. We will get back to this later, also tomorrow, how important it is that the parents set a good example. And just as a little story, I remember, maybe I better don't mention any names, but anyway, it was just so funny. One very well-known Prabhupada disciple, he lives in Mayapur for a great part of his year, and this is many years ago. He has a daughter, meanwhile she's grown up, but at that stage she was maybe 3 or something, 3 or 4, could just talk. And I had to do something. I visited them and I had to discuss something with the father. So, and then when I came, that Prabhu, father of that girl, he was sitting there on his computer, and the mother opened the door and let me in. And so then the mother called, "Oh, come, Devaki Mataji's here." So, and then the girl made this comment, she said, "Ach, Dad, you're just such a computer head." And you could exactly hear from where this came, You could clearly understand this must have been some comments of the mother to the father, And I've had plenty of such situations, where the kids, they pick up, and then they imitate. And exactly in those situations when it may get a little embarrassing for the parents when there's a visitor there, and then the kids, say stuff like that. It was just so funny. We were all laughing, and of course the parents were a little embarrassed and so on, but it was just really funny, "Ach, Dad, you're just such a computer head," So yeah, this is what it's like, the kids learn through imitation, imitating the parents. And just another funny story comes to my mind. When I was working as a physiotherapist, almost 40 years ago, meanwhile. So there was this little boy, and he was limping. He was walking funny. you know, and the mother had taken him to the doctors, trying to check out his hip joint, this, that. Nobody could find anything, why this kid was walking funny. So, and then one day the kid came with a grandfather to the treatment, and it became very clear why the kid was walking funny, because the grandfather had a problem with the hip. You know, and he was limping, walking on the with the stick. So the kid had just such adoration for the grandfather that the child was imitating how he was walking, you know. So this is how it goes, you know. The kids really learn through imitating. And I mean, very often we also see this in the temple room, you know, when the parents pay obeisances, that the kids just imitate and also do, you know, even at very young age, but they see, or the dad lies flat on the ground, okay, diving onto the ground, you know, or even on the parents' back. Sometimes the kids pay obeisances there, climbing on the back of the father, and, you know, you ever seen this? Yeah. Oh, you have. Yeah, so, you know, so we have to really keep this in mind. And this is exactly why, you know, taking this whole topic with children seriously, it puts a whole different dimension to the Grihastha ashram, because the parents have to shape up. They have to set a good example every day, all day, because the kids are there, they're watching, they're not stupid, they can see exactly what's going on. So, and they're imitating, yeah. Yeah, so, and then as the child is getting a little older in this age, you know, gradually there is also social interest there. The child interacts with other people, you know, definitely. While it is very small, the child, as we were saying yesterday on our chart there, the child is still rather egocentric and thinks himself to be the object of everyone's love. But then as the child grows up, you know, it understands, oh, there's other kids there, and they have a stronger desire to interact and have some social interest there. And of course, very strongly, there's also the motoric interest, meaning that the child wants to improve and enjoy their physical skills. And that's why they're running around and jumping and, you know, experimenting, jumping from a higher level down, and, oh yeah, I can do already this and that. So this is a really important phase for the children, because that's how they develop also their confidence, you know. Like if parents are overprotective and, oh, the child is not allowed to do this and that, and, oh, no climbing and jumping, oh no, something could happen. You know, that really stifles the development of a child, because the child wants to explore and develop their skills and see what they can all do already, you know. And also there's the curiosity there. This already starts when they're 1.5 or something, you know, or even younger. What? Where's the mic?
I said I don't want to speak today. No, but I have a question.
Hang on, let me just maybe, if you have a question, let me just maybe finish this. I thought you just wanted to add something from your own experience. But let's just quickly finish that, and then we can see what questions are there. Yeah, so the curiosity is there. That, you know, already at 1.5 or 2, the kids open every drawer and they, you know, take everything from the shelves and open this up and put everything in the mouth and. So there is this whole urge to explore objects and places, you know. And this is a pretty busy time for the mother, because she's constantly running after the child and stopping him, you know, and guiding, you know, and protecting the child and avoiding that any kind of calamities happen, you know. So, and even at this early age, I think we mentioned it the other day in the Bhagavatam class, that it is very important to teach respect to the deities and to the devotees. This, we were discussing in one of the Bhagavatam classes how this culture of respect forms the whole foundation for spiritual life, for receiving knowledge, because knowledge in spiritual life, it is descending, it is received from above, from more senior personalities, sadhus, guru, and so on. And this can only take place if there is a culture of respect there. And this I have experienced really a lot in India and Bangladesh, how the parents understand. Thank God, they do still understand in that part of the world how important it is to teach respect. At young age, as soon as the child can, stand up and walk, basically the parents teach the child, or there's sadhu, there's senior devotee, come on, pay your obeisances, head to the ground, touch the feet, get the dust. And this is highly important actually. Because if the child is not trained at young age in this, then that culture of respect is not set in the child's life and heart, and then to later come with this when the kids are teenagers or something, then we missed the boat, because at that age, the kids, don't like to be disciplined by the parents anymore and so on. So, respect to the deities and the devotees, very important thing. And this is, of course, dependent on, again, parents have to set the example, If they don't have that mood, to pay obeisances to senior devotees, gurus, preachers, and get their blessings and so on, then how can we teach the children, How can we teach the children? So the parents have to, by their own example, also demonstrate this. And I mean, in regards to respect to the deities, it's maybe a bit of a personal thing of my humble self, that I often feel this is a little neglected in our communities, especially in the Western world, that the kids often use the temple room just as a sports hall, and run around and do and this and that. But my God, this is actually not the way it should be, And India, you don't find this so much. Of course, sometimes also the kids run a bit there in Mayapur in the temple or something. But still, that culture of respect, that the children are trained. There's Prabhupada there. There's Lord Nrsingadev there. They're there. They see you, And what will they think, That really the children learn that the temple room is a sacred place where we don't just run and have fun and scream and, especially here in the countryside, we've got room for that outside, but temple room is a sacred place where we should behave respectfully, I mean, even in Christianity, in the churches, the children don't behave like that. No, they're taught, to have some awe and reverence and respect. And I remember once when I introduced this kids' Bhagavatam class there on Saturday mornings. We can ask Atmaram Prabhu, were they still doing it when you left? They still maintain every Saturday. Yeah, just say. That's, yes.
They have especially the guy who is giving the class on the Saturdays, they give it like
the
speaker, the Vaishnavas.
Yes.
I'm not English native, sorry. And he gives a very basic talk, and he asks very simple questions according to level of kids, and then at the end they all have sweets.
Yeah.
Very
Good to
nice.
hear.
Very
I mean,
nice.
I introduced
Yes,
this
yes.
about
Still to do it.
3 years ago or something, you know, and they're still maintaining it. But I remember at the beginning, of course, they all said, "Oh, Mataji, you have to show us how to do this." And I'm actually not so experienced dealing with the kids, you know. But anyway, so I was really meditating and preparing something, and it was very sweet and funny and nice. And I remember in one of these lectures, I was bringing up this point of respect in the temple room to the kids, you know, and I was asking them, you know, what do you think? What's Prabhupada going to try? We have going to try in Harkov. What do they think when you're just wild and screaming, running around, you know? And then one little girl said, "They probably think I'm not a devotee," you know. She answered, you know. So, and then I was making this comparison. Yeah, you know, we can't behave like monkeys, you know. Monkeys in Vrindavan, they're not allowed in the temple room, so we don't want to be like wild monkeys here. Monkeys have to stay outside, you know. So in a suitable way, in a funny and humorous way, we can get this message across, you know. And then, then it was funny. Then after that lecture, you know, whenever the kids were wild, then the parents were saying, "You remember Devaki Mataji said, you know, don't be like monkey, you know, monkey has to go outside," you know. So, you know, it was helpful for the parents also to try and impress this point on the kids, you know. And yeah, I feel there is not enough emphasis on this in ISKCON in the Western world, that there's a little bit this anti-authoritarian mood, and we can't, you know, we can't be too strict with the kids, that may discourage them or something from going to the temple. But no, we have to know the art, how to explain this in a nice and loving way to the children, so they learn that mood of respect, you know. I find this very important. And I mean, yes, in regards to respect, I once had this experience in one community in America. I better won't mention any names. But the parents, sorry, she likes me to sing it of keen. The parents were also voicing this point to me, that even in the schools, they really feel that we don't teach enough respect to the children. And there was one family who actually took their children off the devotee school and put them in a Christian school, because they saw that there is more respect toward. Yeah? And when I heard that, I thought, oh my God, this is really sad. Such a sad and poor sign, you know, that the Christians are doing better in teaching these important things like respect than we are doing, you know. Yes, it really broke my heart, you know, to hear this, because Prabhupada also wanted so much that we have schools and gurukuls and but then we also have to, you know, understand the importance of teaching respect. Just 1 minute, let me quickly finish this. Okay. Okay, then let me just, hang on. It's just 2 more lines here, which is connected with respect. So, yes, teach respect to the deity and devotees at that young age already, in a loving and caring way. And the child, you know, should take part in Krishna conscious functions. And in that way, you know, we attract them to Krishna consciousness, and especially if we attract them in the playful and creative way with games and singing and so many things. We will get to that point in more detail later. Yes. So how important it is to make Krishna conscious fun, joyful, dynamic, colorful, you know, and not just do's and don'ts, you know, but we'll get to this tomorrow in more detail. So, and in this early age already, some discipline can be taught, and delegation of simple responsibilities within the family. This is also something we will get back tomorrow, how important it is that children feel needed and that they have responsibilities and tasks, and they're part of the whole team of the smaller family and also the bigger family of a community. So we will discuss this in more detail tomorrow. I don't want to get now into too much detail because it will all come tomorrow. So some discipline, some delegation of responsibilities can be taught with great affection and care, not harshly and too much ordering or something, but in a loving and caring way. So now, let me see, Ramananda Prabhu. Yeah, but give him the mic so our online audience can also hear it.
I'm actually not, because you said you are amazed that the Christians do better than us. I think there are so many areas of life where other groups or people do way better than us because they are more practiced and experienced. We have no experience with that. I'm not wondering that, the Pilz, our car engineer, is better than our car mechanic shop because, this is their profession. So also Christian groups or other groups, they are practiced with this since a long time, and we started new. And we are still figuring out. We haven't figured out what are we, what is ISKCON, what is Krishna, so how we are able to communicate even to children. So it's not that surprising.
Yes.
In that sense.
And that means, in other words, we have to be also open to learn from them. We can't just have this pride and think, we devotees, we know everything better and we have the topmost thing of going back to Goloka Vrindavan. Yeah, that's all true. But there are so many things where we can actually learn from others, definitely. Okay, thank you. Ramananda Prabhu.
This question were connected. First of all, you said because of this, one should let kids explore. And then my question came, but what is if they explore in the temple room? For example, they're taking the shoes of Prabhupada, they're taking the drinking cup, they're taking instruments. They are.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but this is especially when they are in this age to explore. It's difficult to tell them one way when we behave in another way. For example. We tell the kids to be respectful in the temple room, but then we dancing and jumping in the kirtan and having a good time, and they think, they're behaving like monkeys.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought of this.
No, I mean, they're just imitating, but they don't know. Okay, now I have to stand still. Now I have to, they're just thinking.
Yes.
Parents also like a herd of monkeys. So let me also jump
That's
around.
a good point. So maybe we also have to be a little, it doesn't mean we are not allowed to dance or something, but sometimes it also gets a little too wild and too much showing off mood there and just, frivoling around or something. This is also actually not really the adequate way of behaving in the kirtan, So, yeah, good point. But I mean that the whole exploring urge of the child in the temple room, that has to be supervised, I mean, the other day I saw Jagadish Prabhu, with his little boy on his arm, and then he was saying, I was talking to him, and then he said, we have to have a quick look there together at the camera. So he took his boy and he showed him, and and so the exploring urge can be supervised. That the mother comes with the child and has the child on the arm or on the hand, and then together they're carefully, respectfully exploring these things. So it has to be guided, and not just the mother wants to change her jumper, and the child runs around, and all right, from the corner of her eye, she keeps an eye on it, and she lets the child climb up there and do all kinds of things, and then, in the last minute, she comes and runs, before some big disaster happens there, So this is not the right way to deal. So it means the parents have to give quality time and attention to the child to actually explore these things together, And then we allow the child in a respectful way to get to know all the different corners here of the temple room and how to behave. And, let's take the dust. This is Prabhupada's shoes and so on. So this has to be taught, But often we don't do this. There is a big lack. I mean, we get to this also tomorrow. But I often observe there is a big lack amongst the parents of really spending quality time, Krishna conscious quality time with the children. That sometimes, I mean, I don't want to hint here at anybody. It's not only here, but in other parts of the world too. That sometimes mothers, they just let the kids for 3 hours swing on the swing, while they're chanting. And I often think, my God, can't we do something a bit more creative with the children and educational and devotional, than just letting the kid just for 3 hours swing or something, I mean, there is so much more we can do with the children, But anyway, we'll get to that later. Yeah, so, this exploring and curiosity, that has to be guided in a loving and affectionate way, Yes. Shall we move on to the next phase? Or do we have any more comments and questions? As I mentioned in the beginning, we will come back to many of these points in more detail, from tomorrow onwards. Yes?
Danke. Ja, ich hatte Erlebnisse, auch wie du schon erwähntest eben, also in der Vergleichskirche, Tempel. Und wir hatten es in der Kirche immer so, dass die Kinder zu Beginn des Gottesdienstes mit einer Kraft, die da in der Kirche für die Kinder zuständig war, die ist mit den Kindern in den Nebenraum gegangen, hat mit den Kindern gebastelt oder hat Geschichten erzählt von Jesus Christus und dergleichen. Und die Kinder waren immer ganz begeistert. Und wir hatten da unsere Ruhe im Gottesdienst. Denn ich weiß aus meiner Erfahrung, als ich Kind war, und ich bin immer mit meiner Oma zur Kirche, und da gab es sowas nicht. Ich musste da eben immer still sitzen und hatte dann Fragen gestellt. Und das war meiner Oma dann zu viel. Und dann durfte ich einmal nicht mit in die Kirche. Und das war für mich aber solche Strafe, dass ich das nie wieder gemacht habe. Ich bin dann immer sitzen geblieben. Aber ich glaube, dieser Punkt, die Kinder dann vielleicht zu beschäftigen, wir hatten das ja auch schon mal im Nebenraum, ist wirklich eine gute Idee. Ja.
Yes, so let me quickly translate. And we will get to this point later anyway, but let me quickly translate what Kishore Mataji is saying. So she's saying that, yes, she remembers in her childhood when they were going to church, there was always separate programs for the children, and they were interesting and engaging. And once she was kind of punished by not being allowed to go to church on a Sunday, and she never did her offense there again because this was such a deep punishment, Yeah, I mean, very true. This is a whole topic which we will come back again, that there has to be actually parallel programs for the children, And I mean, I can already foresee in the next 5 years or something, we will probably have a bit of a baby boom here, because we have quite a few couples who are just starting their family life now. So then it will become definitely more pressing that really the children are meaningfully engaged, and they're not just going wild here in the temple room and run around or something, but that they have some meaningful engagements, Yes. Yeah. And I mean also, coming to think about that, in Vrindavan, for example, there's also a Gurukul. You don't see the kids running around like mad there in the temple room, And when they come into the temple, they all go in pairs, together. They're guided into the temple. This is how we teach respect, that the children enter the temple like that, going in pairs, in a line. They have to line up outside the temple room, and then they go in the temple room like this, and then they attend certain parts of the program, and then they go out again of the temple room, and then they have their own program, But if this is not existing, then of course the kids go bananas, and they just run around, and also they bring attention to themselves like that, because they see the temple room is all grown-up world here, and where am I here? Okay, if I run, maybe I get then some little attention here, but I'm also here, Okay, so let us move on to Puganda, 6 to 10 years. So this is actually the best age to train the children in spiritual practice and establish good habits. Again, we will come to that point again later, so we don't want to now discuss what habits should we discuss. Let's just have the overview first. What is, good in which phase of life? So 6 to 10, that's when we can really establish good habits. For example, in regards to cleanliness, and there should be family rules, following rules, family rules. We'll unpack it later. Let's just keep it at that for the time being. What to do, what not to do, And one can explain their meanings. Now we can use logic and reasoning. 6 to 10, the child has so much more intelligence. But before that, when the child is 3 or 4 or something, reasoning, some little bit one can try, but, not so effective, because simply the intelligence is not so developed, But 6 to 10 is there. One can use logic and reason. And there we also teach to discriminate between good and bad. In the previous stage, the kids cannot really discriminate. That's why the parents have to guide and protect, But now we can teach what is good, what is bad, what's favorable, what's unfavorable, And now an important principle is that we should not only forbid to do this and that and the other, but we should offer positive alternatives, That it's not only don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. This negativity, very discouraging, So we have to offer positive alternatives and engage the child in a positive way. And we have to channel their energy, into uplifting spiritual activities, into creative things, creative arts, music, drama, This is a good age to start teaching the kids instruments, Mridanga, kartals, all these things, should be started at 5, 6, like that, Yes, very effective. And I mean, this is, for example, one little thing where even a brahmachari can come in, he can at least teach the boys Mridanga. Wow, isn't it? I mean, this shouldn't, throw a brahmachari out of his brahmachari life if he has a couple of boys there who he teaches Mridanga, But this is a very nice way that the boys have some brahmachari teachers who they look up to in a respectful mood. Not frivolously playing around and fondling or something, no, but as a teacher, you know. And then the kids have positive impressions if he is a good teacher, of course. You know, if he's somehow traumatizing the kids there, then it will not be such a good impression. But if he is a nice teacher and knows the art of, in a loving way, to teach the kids, it's very, very much wanted, you know, or cartels or something, you know, harmonium singing, you know. But of course, best as far as possible to separate the genders, you know. And also good time for memorizing verses and learning, you know. In that young age, the brain is not burdened with all kinds of, you know, material desires and attraction to the other gender and all these things. So the memory, the intelligence mind is very fresh and pretty pure, you know. So that's the perfect time to learn. I mean, the kids in that age, they learn like anything, you know. Yes. But we have to spend the quality time with them to teach them, you know. Because very often these things don't take place. And there's nobody who teaches the kids all our songs and all these things. So this all has to be taught, you know. And in a community like this, now we don't have so many kids yet here, you know, who are in this age group. But this will be just a question of time. Very clear, you know. If all our new couples here, they have 1 child, 2 children, you know, so we will have a lot of children soon. So better to, you know, meditate on these things already and prepare a little bit that we can offer the kids something, you know. And especially here, if we have many kids, if we don't offer them quality engagements, we will have all kinds of troubles, you know. Yes. I mean, all kinds of nonsense stuff coming from the kids can really be avoided if we give them positive engagements, you know. Then they're engaged on a higher level. Then they're not bored out of their brains and do all kinds of nonsense stuff, but they get something interesting, you know, and that keeps them out of trouble. I was thinking that, I mean, I'm already thinking ahead, you know, I was thinking especially with the whole boy-girl thing. You know, once you have teenagers, I'm sure there will be all kinds of challenges and testing moments, you know, very clear. You know. So it means we have to offer quality engagements, you know. We'll come to that later. But yeah, I just remember it now, you know, in case I forget it later. But yeah, there has to be a boys' club, a girls' club. You know, that's the best way how to keep the genders apart, you know, by offering something nice for the girls and offering something nice for the boys. Then there will not be so much opportunity and time that they do all kinds of nonsense together. But it really requires involvement of the parents. You know, some parents who are really dedicated, yes, I'm going to do something for the teenagers and for this age group and so on, you know. Otherwise, easily one has all kinds of unwanted situations here. Yes, Prabhu, where's the mic?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I'm just, of course, when you're speaking, and I'm understanding actually all your points quite well, but just going through this phase or went already through some phases, I also, of course, I am reflecting what went wrong, what we did okay or good, and I think the main challenge is that in a temple community we have different obligations, and in such a project we are, I mean, I know from many parents we are highly stressed out. And when you said, for a kid sitting for 3 hours on a swing, I mean, I don't know any kid will sit for 3 hours on a swing, but I understand the point. And the father is chanting chopper. I do this all the time because this is what I'm doing. And I think, I guess you will, as you said, later on speak about this, but before I forget it, I mention it.
Yes.
We have to really look into that, where, for example, the Vanaprastha ashram comes in, and the responsibility is not completely on the parents.
Exactly.
Because the parents also, can I leave my kids with you? I have to do something. Well, I have to do also something.
Yes.
You know, but a healthy community means a healthy, all four Varnas, or this. And as they cannot do so much active service, maybe in the management, in the project itself, but this would be a very, very great help for all parents. And this we have to create. It goes all together.
Yes, very true. I completely agree.
There's in France, I saw one, just a short point. I saw once a reportage about France. There was a old people's home and a kindergarten combined. And both of them benefited from this. The old people, they were more alive. They like to share their experiences, and they took naturally care. And the kids had this understanding that old age is something to be respected.
Yeah, very true, very true. I mean, that's why the subtitle in your materials to the seminar is also, it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah? You have that at every beginning of the next lesson. They're the subtitle, And it's very true, because that's also one misunderstanding in the modern days, that we think it's only the parents who are responsible for the children. It's the parents. But no, it takes a village to raise a child, and a child benefits highly if there's all kinds of authority figures in the child's life where they can learn from. Because with the parents, there's also that emotional entanglement and attachment. And sometimes it's very helpful for the parents if another person of the community says something and instructs something, and there's different teachers and role models in the child's life. And they can really immensely help the parents to bring up the child. But if we all think, it's not my child, and it's the parents' job, then it becomes so much more troublesome. And this exchange between the generations, it's definitely a very important point, which I think we also addressed in the Vanaprastha course, which we had here in the beginning of the year. I see this with my mother too. She always thrives when there's somebody with a child coming, and she happily shares something, and the children really look up to her, and both sides benefit immensely. So, and in many countries, there is also programs that the kindergarten groups visit the nursing homes, and they have a little performance. They do some prayer, some songs or poems or something they perform, and so on, So this exchange is highly important. And yes, I mean, as I'm saying again and again, I can see how Simachalam can really, if we all have this vision to actually really create a model, especially here in the Western world, where such models are almost non-existing. But if we can, have this vision of really creating a model of a community where all the ashrams and varnas, they're all harmonizing, they're all serving each other, and the children are brought up in a healthy and stable and nice environment, and they become, emotionally strong and empowered personalities. Very powerful preaching. Very powerful to the outside world and also to other ISKCON temples, if we can actually show how practically our philosophy is meant to be lived, and how beautiful and sweet and wonderful it can be, Even though, yes, surely there's also so many challenges, and you hinted at it by saying, yes, there's different levels of applications in the homes of different families, and but somehow we have to learn to tolerate each other, and it's like a family. So in a family, there's also some personalities sometimes who are a bit of a misfit, who just somehow they didn't turn out the way they should turn out, or what, But still, we can't reject them and exclude them or something, but we somehow have to learn to uplift them in a loving way and cooperate and somehow keep them in the family, as far as possible. Of course, if somebody is just not at all fitting in and creating serious disturbance, so then maybe somebody also has to be requested to keep a distance, move out or something, This can also be, But I mean, this is also a big topic which I don't want to get into now. Only quickly, because I do want to continue to finish this session. Just last quick thing.
Yeah, my question is that in a community there are different parts and they have different, different obligations. And for brahmachari, for example, because you gave the example that brahmachari, they could teach, for example, mridanga. But I personally, of course, I'm far away from being expert, but I personally feel that this could also be a little bit kind of a distraction for brahmachari, if he has to deal with children, because brahmachari, he should focus on study, especially when he's young. Maybe when he's a bit older, brahmachari, like for many years in brahmacharya, then he can maybe give also a little bit, but especially in the early years, I feel it's more important that we absorb knowledge and focus a little bit on our relationship to our guru and to Krishna, and not so much about this.
I was not talking about the bhaktas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in other countries, bhaktas don't even wear saffron. Actually, they're not even considered brahmachari. So, all right, here, different situation. I'm not saying that to criticize or something. I find it very enlivening that at least, some brahmacharis are there. Brahmachari is almost an extinct species in the Western world, So I find it very encouraging that there is some brahmachari mood. But when I'm talking about brahmachari teaching, of course, I'm not talking about young devotees and bhaktas, but I'm talking about senior, solid and steady brahmacharis, which, may be rare to find anyway, But I dare say, like if a brahmachari, if he's really planning to remain as a brahmachari, and this distracts him, just having a half an hour mridanga lesson once a week with a group of boys, then maybe he is not so well situated in his ashram, because I see the examples in India, Bangladesh. If the brahmacharis are well situated, it doesn't distract them, my God, So, all right, this cannot be maybe in all situations applied here in the Western world, but just it's something to think about, and maybe there is even no brahmacharis who can even fit in this category. This can very well be, but I'm trying to give a broader picture, not just what now is relevant in our community or something, but also for future generations, that this is some way how brahmacharis can serve as role models for the kids, Because I think here, Julian, you were not there when we were talking about this in the beginning, that if we want our boys to become brahmacharis, then the brahmacharis have to serve as some kind of role model for the boys, that they look up to them. I want to become like Munindragana Prabhu, he's my hero, But if they're not even at all giving any attention to the kids because they fear their maya, how can we expect our kids to join the brahmachari ashram? It's only common sense, you know. So a little bit of, at least a little bit of including them and seeing them as spirit souls, you know. I mean, that should be expected from somebody who wants to be lifelong brahmachari, that he has to have a little bit of a vision to see, you know, kids as spirit souls, as future brahmacharis, you know. Otherwise, not easy to survive as a brahmachari lifelong, you know, really, you know. Yes.
Just short, I actually all gurukuls I know in East. I mean, like I know from Salem,
Yes.
from Bhakti Vikas Swami,
Yes.
and also the Mayapur Gurukul. They work according to this principle.
Yes.
And even if they don't want to be brahmacharis, what most of them don't do, they learn responsibility. They learn, you know, taking care of smaller kids, what helps them
Yes.
then later
Yes.
on when they're
Yes.
parenting.
Yes. I mean, Bhakti Vidyapurna Swami's boys' school in Mayapur, there's not a single lady teaching anything. It's all men. It's all brahmacharis, you know, or the more experienced boys from the Gurukul, you know. Yes. So this is, you know, Gurukul, this is taught by Guru and brahmacharis. They deal with the kids, yes, yes. And that doesn't, you know, knock them around in their ashram or something, you know. Yes. Because they have a spiritual vision. They see them as spirit souls and as future brahmacharis and preachers and so on, you know. Yes. And they simply impart knowledge and training. Yes. Yes. Not, I'm saying it again and again, not frivoling around with the kids and just fondling them and joking and laughing and sporting around, but no, training, being their guru, you know. I mean, this fits completely into the upbringing of the boys, you know. Yes. So from that perspective, I cannot see a problem with, you know, half an hour Madanga lesson or something per week. You know, that distracts a brahmachari from his brahmachari life or something. No. Maybe the opposite. It may actually really inspire him and give him a boost to, you know, bring up a new generation of brahmacharis there, you know. But anyway, you know, I'm very well aware of it, that maybe presenting such thoughts is even a little bit of a risk for me here, you know, that maybe people will criticize and, what crazy ideas is Devaki Mataji coming. So I'm not expecting that this is all to be implemented right now and today or something, and definitely not by young bhaktas or something, but just to give a vision how Krishna's system is meant to function, you know. The brahmacharis have that place to train the boys, definitely, you know, definitely. This is part of our culture, you know. Yeah. Okay, let us use the last 15 minutes to move on to the next age group, Kaishora, 11 to 15. Please, let me, because I would like to finish this. I'm sure there will be another opportunity later, because as I was saying, most of these points, we will come back later. So please keep your question, and I'm sure it will fit in later somewhere, or it may be even answered later, you know. So 11 to 15. This is the strictest possible time. This is the time for the strictest possible discipline. Actually, 11 to 15. Child learns to become responsible in this age, you know. So we have here some quotes. Bhagavatam 3:14-20. Unless there is rigid and systematic training of the brahmachari by the expert spiritual master, and unless the student is obedient, it is sure that the so-called brahmachari will fall prey to the attack of sex life. Of course, one may say, oh, brahmacharya, is this already 11 to 15? But it is the, preparatory time, actually, for the boys, And applying it to the Gurukul idea, I mean, Bhaktivedanta Swami's Gurukul, there the kids start when they're 5, And they're under very strict discipline and training, and they only see their parents, I think it's 45 minutes once a week or something, Huh? Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not a must, but I know quite a few parents who have their boys there. So Sundays at a certain time, those who want to see their kids, they go at that time to the school and they have 45 minutes or something. And they often tell me, the kids, they're not even so keen on this, they have their fun and all right, here mum comes and so on, But it's not that they are, oh, I miss you and this and that. No, they're having a great time there. So, yes, the parents are the ones who really miss the kids and all that, but the kids having a great time, Yes. So 11 to 15, that's the critical phase of adolescence, where the child has to become more and more aware of his words, his actions, his behavior, So it's really the time when the child grows up. And of course, naturally, if a child has bad association in that stage, also very detrimental for his development, Yes. So important is, again, we stick to the general principle here now, that we should not just moralize and instruct, If we only moralize and instruct and correct, will not be well accepted. The basis has to be love. Yes. And in order to illustrate this, I want to read here with you this conversation in July 1975, which Prabhupada had with Jagadish Prabhu. Actually, he was personally instructed by Prabhupada to really establish gurukuls and dedicate himself to this field of activities, So, no, he was different Swami. He's actually, yes, but then he also, well, to what extent he's around, I'm not sure, but not as a Swami. He's actually, don't know if I should say, is Lakshmi Moni Mataji's former husband. Yes. I think some of us know Lakshmi Moni, Yes. Yes. And she was also very involved in, girls' care and Gurukul and so on, So, question is, should we be strict? So it is a little confusing, Prabhupada's answer. He says, it is all on the basis of love. Strict is not very good. So we may think now, oops, we just heard how discipline is also important. Now Prabhupada says, strict is not very good. They should do it automatically out of love. Superficially, some stricture is not a good idea. On the platform of love, stricture, there are so many laws. Do or you be punished. They will develop the idea of love. Jagadish, forcing out of love, Prabhupada. The basic principle should be love. He's saying it again and again. That force is not material. The son is forced by the father, but that is for the son's benefit. That chastisement is also out of love. Children are innocent. As you teach them, they will love. Forced teaching, but all on the basis of love. but it requires experience. Yes. Rules and regs. Oh, hang on, that's not part of the... Oh, no, it is part of the thing. Rules and regs, rising early, etc., will teach him automatically. Hare Krishna mantra, offering oblations, Didi, then automatically. Sit down and chant Hare Krishna. Get them to chant like that. Behave yourself strictly and they will follow. Here again we have that point, how we ourselves have to be strict and disciplined. If the parents are not strict and disciplined in their life, how can they teach the child to be disciplined and strict? It's all about setting the example. And as Prabhupada says again and again, it should be based on love, which of course does not mean that we don't chastise. No, sometimes there has to be chastisement, but a child can feel whether this comes with love and affection or whether it comes from some ego platform and harshness and maybe even ventilating one's own frustrations on the child and all this, A child can feel. Of course a child can feel, If this is genuine concern and affection, or whether there's some, some negativity and harshness there, You be a personal example. If you don't practice but force them, that's not good. If you are too lenient, there will be many faults. If you discipline them, that's good. Don't be lenient. Not out of love. Not out of love. See our disciples go to hell. Yes. This is the wrong understanding of love. Not that, out of love we see our devotees go to hell. No, not that kind of love, That is foolishness. From 5 to 15. So now he takes these two phases together, right? They should be kept under strict disciplinary order. If they don't follow, they should be chastised. After that time, force them. Don't force them, sorry. When they're grown up, 15, they should be treated as friends. Especially concentrate on congregational chanting and individual chanting. Gurukul means the students are educated as good citizens, devotees, and know the value of life. In other schools, they remain cats and dogs. They are not educated, but they learn to become polished dog. Prabhupada. Yeah, very clear, he makes this point. Yes, there should be strictness, there should be discipline, but the main and foremost thing is it has to be all based on genuine love and concern and affection. And the spiritual view has to be there, that we want to give this child the best opportunity to really go back to Godhead and make a contribution to Prabhupada's mission. A letter to Aniruddha, 1972. I have read that you are screening very carefully the children who want to come there. That is not a very good proposal. All children of devotees should be welcome, even they have developed some unfavorable qualities. They are only young children. How do you expect them to behave in the best way? You have to make them very nice behavior by training them and simply giving discipline. So let everyone come to our school. That is our policy, not to discriminate. Well, this can also be applied, in a community like this, that, there will always be some children who have not so good habits and behaviors and so on. But we can't be too excluding, That will even damage the child more. Child will feel it. If, this is a very common thing also amongst parents. And, oh, my child cannot play with this child. And then there's a whole war going amongst the parents, you know. And then this filters down to the children, and then they grow up with all this enmity and no, this is terrible, you know. That makes everything only worse. It magnifies the negativity. So somehow we have to find other ways to conquer over these differences, you know, and not excluding and having some Cold War there going on, you know. The children should be trained in early rising, attending Mangalati, some elementary education, arithmetic, alphabet, some of our books like that. They should go to bed by 8 p.m. I hope all the parents hear this, because there are also so often bad habits, you know, that the kids stay up till 10 or something, you know. Yeah. They should go to bed by 8 p.m. and rise by 4 a.m. for Mangalati, getting 8 hours sleep. If they take 8 hours sleep, they will not fall asleep during Aarti. When they get up, they should wash with a little warm water, at least 3 times wash face. Sounds like they're not even taking bath properly. They may sleep 1 hour in the afternoon, and there is no harm. Encourage them to chant as much japa as possible, but there is no question of force or punishment. In this regard, I once encountered a family, you know, who was locking out their child on the balcony until they finished the rounds, you know. This kind of practices. That's why the American survey showed, you know, what the kids hate the most is the class and the japa, you know, because it was forced upon them, you know. Again, we cannot criticize. It's of course, you know, immaturity of the parents, and they want their best, and they don't know how to, you know, train the children, and then all these kinds of things were going on, you know. If there is need, you may shake your finger at them, but never physical punishment is allowed. Try as far as possible to discipline them with love and affection, so that they develop a taste for austerity of life and think it great fun to serve Krishna in many ways. Rising early in Mangalati, this is enough austerity. Besides that, let them learn something, chant, dance, eat as much prasadam as they like, and do not mind if they have playful nature. Let them also play and run. That is natural. It is nice if they eat often. If children overeat, it doesn't matter. That is no mistake. Boys and girls should be educated separately. That's the recommendation, you know, but often hard to put into place and so on, you know. So a few little guidelines here as a summary. Don't force the child in his spiritual practice. This is a real big one, you know. Yes. Should understand the dangers of free mixing. You know, already in this age, 11 to 15, we have to, in a nice way, according to the age and development of the intelligence and mind and so on, the children have to understand the dangers of free mixing with the other gender, you know. Should learn to control the senses, some moral codes, you know. Should be monitored carefully and lovingly. Child evaluates and analyzes, puts together what he has learned, ideologies, principles, with what he observes, you know. So, and regularly study of philosophy and its application, very helpful, especially in this age, because then they can, learn the practical application and put things together and also apply it in their own life. And. So at that age, the intelligence is much more developed that we can really teach them, But again, it takes all the effort of the parents. Somebody has to really take this to heart and engage the children in a qualitative way, Yes. Child is emotionally sensitive, wants to do whatever he likes. So there has to be mental engagement, We will get back to this later also, that the children have to take part actively in festivals and programs, that they, especially in this age of 11 to 15, they can already do so many things. But often we just don't let them take part. How I shared with this boy who came to Bangladesh when he was 10, and the brahmacharis involved him and so on, and he flourished like anything, So 11 to 15, at this moment we don't even have anybody in this age. But it's good to understand that in this age, definitely the kids can be part. They can do things and actively, be part of festivals and programs. Use creativity and intelligence in service and arts. So the parents and grown-ups, they have to use their creativity to somehow involve the kids in a joyful way. We'll get back to this later also. Child has to develop meaningful spiritual relationships with peers and seniors. And that keeps them emotionally secure later in life. And the mind and heart is firmly grounded in Krishna consciousness through meaningful relationships. This is really important, And that's why not only the parents should, connect and relate to the kids, but also other authority figures, especially in this age, 11 to 15, that the kids have some heroes. They have to have some heroes. I remember from my teenage years, all my teenage friends, they had all their heroes on the wall in their rooms, like the football players and actors and rock stars and so on, right? You remember this from your teenage, There's never mom and dad on the wall. No. Already teenage, 12, 13, 14, the child needs other heroes, other role models. Mom and dad are not the heroes at that time anymore, and definitely even more so when the kids are 16 plus, So, in a community like that, other devotees have to serve as the heroes, for this age group, And then they have something to strive for. Yes, I want to become like him or her, and so on, Yes. And if there's firm personal relationships, that gives a strong grounding, Then their hearts are firmly grounded in Krishna consciousness through affectionate, trusting, and meaningful relationships in their life, Very important. Okay, I think we'll leave the Yovana age for this afternoon. We didn't quite manage to get through it, even though I was trying, but but no problem. We can finish off with that this afternoon and then continue with the role of the father and role of the mother. Okay, are there any quick last questions to this, or shall we keep it for this afternoon if there's anything? Yes, one last question of Irina Mataji.
It seems to me that all these instructions are meant more for their boys, isn't it like this? It's that in the scriptures in general, the instructions in raising the children are meant for the boys, for brahmacharis. And
Yeah.
yes, like this.
To some extent, but really the girls are trained traditionally with the same principles at home in family life, you know? Yes. So there is not really that much difference, really, you know? And I mean, as we were saying, boys and girls should be educated separately. So Prabhupada, by no means he excluded the girls or something. No, it may sound like that. I mean, of course, especially when I talk about brahmacharis getting involved, then it's definitely only the boys, you know, it's not the girls, you know, that's for sure. So, but the same principle is there for the girls, that one of the senior ladies, you know, should teach the girls. Or if there is somebody who is for the rest of their lives, you know, in the temple, in the more vanaprastha renounced phase of life, so then they can also, you know, as Ramananda Prabhu was saying, the vanaprasthas, they are ideal for, you know, teaching the children and training them and disciplining them and so on, you know. So same thing has to go on for the girls too, you know, definitely. So there is not much difference, you know. I mean, all these principles, don't force the child, means boy or girl, you know, should understand dangers of free mixing and learn to control the senses more. This is all for boys and girls, you know. The only difference traditionally is that the boys actually, very traditionally, the boys were really going to Gurukul, you know. At 5 years of age, the boys were actually separated from the mother, you know, because this mother-son relationship is very close. The mothers are very attached usually to the sons. So traditionally, the understanding was there that very often the mothers are too lenient and too, you know, pampering the boys, and then they don't grow up with this moral fiber and strength and character so easily, you know. So, I mean, of course, saying this doesn't mean that all the families who have boys, they have to, you know, send their 4 or 5-year-old kids away or something, you know. No. But it's interesting to understand the principle, you know, how Krishna's system was meant to function. You know, that actually the boys were going to Gurukul. We know Krishna, Balaram, Sudama, they were going to Sandipani Muni's Gurukul. You know, they were separated from their families, you know, just so they get that strictness and austerity, because for the boys it is conducive to have a little more austerity. And I mean, I know families in Mayapur who put their boys in Gurukul when they were, one boy was 10, the brother was 6 or something, 7, something like that. Ooh, it was tough for them the first year, really tough, because there's so much physical austerity there. Oh my God, yeah. You know, only cold water, also in winter. And, you know, only certain kinds of cloth. You know, I think that they don't even wear socks and all this, you know. I mean, tough physical austerity, you know. And I know the family, you know, Singhabhadra, you know him. The Singhabhadra, the father and Atmaram Prabhu were brahmacharis together in Riga, so I know the family for 35 years, you know. And I know what they were like before when they were living in Riga. I was often passing through, staying in their house, you know, and so on, because they're like my children, actually. I got them married and everything, you know. So, and I could see, you know, what the kids were like before they went to the Gurukul. They were just the typical bored out of their brains kids, you know, the whole room full of useless toys and just playing games on the computer there. And, classic Kali Yuga kids, So, and then they decided to go to Mayapur, and the wife lives there, and the husband goes back and forward, and he's got a business in Riga and so on. And I saw how they transformed. I mean, my God, now they're like little sadhus, and they're thriving there. Really, I mean, no time for any nonsense. They're fully engaged. But the first year, whenever I came to Mayapur and I was meeting them somewhere, and I asked them, so, how are you? How is it going? Ooh, difficult, So the first year was really tough for them. Also because of the physical austerity. But then once they conquered so this they will give such kind of discipline to the child. Traditionally, this is that every to move. I mean, Prabhupada really wanted are run now in ISKCON. Prabhupada wanted the really traditional gurukuls. And this, we have not a few in India, Salem and so on, Have something, To envision you for Simachalam track. Road, this is just coming now to my mind. I mean, I'm sure. Anyway, but it should be taught and this, and now we are not there yet. Germany and Europe, So, and you would. So no harm to things. What action and what is really the Divya Punaswami has or had also the girls' school for it is there, Really going over time. Mataji, what?
Earlier devotees living here.
Okay.
When I joined here, 19. The parents, they had bigger children, and they tried to do school here, but the government was not allowing. And then after that, they moved out with their children, and then another group of parents with children, they again tried.
Okay.
So maybe
I didn't even know about that.
Yes. So
okay. So maybe the time was just not right yet.
Maybe in the future.
Obviously.
Yes.
Because to have a school, I mean, this is a whole big topic separately, This is a huge challenge, My God, for that you really need mature and experienced and dedicated devotees, Yes. But long term, why not have such visions? Would be fantastic. Long term, something. We have to have long-term plans and short-term plans and aspirations and how to move Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement forward, Yes. It's definitely a great environment, Yes. Okay. Did you want to? Okay, let's finish on that note. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi.